for the second of two NASCAR Nationwide Series practices at the Bristol Motor Speedway. Beautiful spring day here in eastern Tennessee. Temperature 52 degrees, and folks, it looks great for the entire weekend here at the Bristol Motor Speedway. Now, in the first practice, 3 drivers went for a spin. And unfortunately, when you spin here, you usually hit something pretty hard. That's Mike Harmon in the 84 car, backs it in. A little bit later on, 0 car, driven by former series champ Steve Grissom, also makes contact. And then Casey Atwood, almost the identical spot to Mike Harmon, heavy damage to that 0-5 for Casey Atwood. Casey Atwood's car down in the garage. Team you see there with hammers hard at work trying to get that car race ready.
The thing is, Steve, I was down there in the garage area in between these practice sessions, had an opportunity to walk by that 05 car. Newt Moore, the crew chief on that car, said, hey, guess what? We're going to be able to get it fixed. We'll be back out there. We may even make some of this final practice, but the 05 car, which are guaranteed a starting spot already, they will be in the race tomorrow.
Well, Hermie, let's talk about agendas. We always need to know what's going to happen in this practice. What will they work on in this practice, getting ready for qualifying tomorrow morning?
Well, we got basically a new racetrack here. I mean, they redid this racetrack last year with progressive banking anywhere from 26 to 30 degrees, so it's not the same kind of racetrack. So track position is even more important qualifying than it always has been, but getting your car to turn good through the center and keeping good forward bite on the long haul is what the guys are going to run up front are going to need to work on.
Well, what I think they're going to be looking at, Steve, is trying to see how much the racetrack has changed. And one characteristic about this racetrack that's always been important, as it rubbers up, as we run more laps on it and it gets darker, you'll see the groove start to get blacker and blacker. The track's going to tighten up. So now you got to figure out, where am I with my race setup? Now, what do I need to do to tune this thing up for a qualifying run? Like Hermie was saying, qualifying very important, but you may need to give up a little bit qualifying to make sure you got a good race setup.
Joining us downstairs, let's go to Chris Devoda.
All right, thanks, Steve. You three always have an agenda, right? Well, so do these guys, of course, out on the racetrack. I talked with Jason Keller right before he got in his race car. He was top 10 in the first practice. He said his car is very good. They're going to spend about the first 20 or 30 minutes of this practice just trying to get the handling that much better before they switch over to qualifying trim. Keller's a former winner at this track. In fact, this is the 10-year anniversary of his Bristol win. Let's head down to the other side here and Dr. Dick Berger.
Well, NASCAR's Nationwide Series was most recently here in Bristol in August of last year. And young 25-year-old Brad Keselowski got the job done. He won the race. He has exactly the same car here today that he won that race in. He was second quick in the first practice session. We're going to go out and see if they can tighten it up just a little bit. Pops Uri, his crew chief, said the biggest problem he's got right now with Keselowski in the car is trying to slow the driver down. He just wants to go as fast as he possibly can every single lap.
Steve, you know, it's interesting that Dick brings that up about trying to slow the driver down. This is a racetrack, and Hermie, I think in our first practice, you brought it up a little bit, patiently aggressive. You know, you need to show a certain amount of restraint, float the car off down in the corner, get into a rhythm, and realize this racetrack will lure you into basically challenging it. It'll make you think that you can drive it all the way through the corner wide open, but you can't. So you've got to really, be disciplined, I guess is what I'm looking for. A great driver here has not only got patience, but he's got discipline.
Yeah, you got to attack the racetrack to run fast. You can't, finesse it all the time and run fast, but you've got to race the racetrack. We talk about here, Darlington, places like that, these guys have got to be, with 75 laps to go, they've got to be on the lead lap with all the fenders on that car to have a chance to win.
Yeah, but guys, patiently and aggressive, that doesn't seem like a combination.
You have to have the right time to do both. You have to be patient. You have to be patient until it's time to be aggressive, and those who are not, it doesn't matter. I mean, you waste your stuff before the race is over. I mean, look at the people that have won here. She talked about Jason Keller. I mean, this is a racetrack that you've got to attack when it's time to attack. And you learn that through experience, some good and some bad.
David Green driving the 07 car. Got a win back here. What was that, Jeff? 94 when Mark Martin pulled off the track a lap early?
Yes, he did. We'll get a chance to talk to Mark about that tonight.
No. Larry Mack's going to talk to him about?
Well, you know, Larry can do it, but I mean, we're still going to find out tonight on trackside if it's still a lingering memory. Even though he did sit on the pole today in the Cup Series, maybe it will take a little sting out of the fact that he gave up a victory here at Bristol by doing that.
Hermie, I just want to go on record as saying Larry Mack said we should ask Mark about that. And we said, no, you should.
I'm not.
Let it lie.
Let it go.
Let it go, Larry. Speed's coverage of NASCAR Nationwide Series final practice from Bristol is brought to you by Nationwide Insurance, the official auto insurance provider of NASCAR. Final practice continuing here at Bristol. Clint Boyer in the 29 car, third on the timing and scoring monitor. And Hermie, the thing about Clint Boyer, he reminds me a lot of Kevin Harvick in that it seems like they've been comfortable at this racetrack from the very first time they raced here.
Yeah, sometimes as a driver, you just take to a racetrack, and that's in Kevin Harvick's situation as well as Clint Boyer. It's a combination of liking a racetrack and having good race cars, Jeff. But sometimes you go to a place. I think this place is one of those when you talk to drivers. Most people like it, but it's a kind of a place either you really, really like it or you really, really don't like it. And the ones that run good here are the ones that have good history here and enjoy coming here.
Well, one other thing I want to add to that, and you're right about that analogy, but I think you got to go a little bit deeper. I think the guy he drives for, Richard Childress, he had a lot of success here. He liked this place as a driver, and when he got different drivers from Ricky Rudd to Dale Earnhardt and brought them here, I think they came up with a combination that worked. Go back and look at Junior Johnson. Whenever he brought Cale here, Leroy Yarborough, Darrell Walton, no matter who drove for him, they always ran well here. I think it has to be, you've got to have the right equipment and the right people around you to build the right car to run here to help you. Because you come in here, all of a sudden you get inside a good driving race car, one that runs fast, one that's consistent for 500 laps. It makes it a lot easier to like this place.
Yeah, and you learn a lot of, you learn better habits when you're driving a good handling race car. You know, Mark Martin said something really interesting on Sprint Cup practice this morning. They asked him about how his car was or what he liked about his car. And he said, it follows the front tires very good. You want a car that those front two tires are digging through the center of the corner, and when you turn that wheel, the car responds. A light front end that pushes is a bad recipe for here at Bristol.
Stephen Wallace in the 66 car. His dad, Rusty Wallace, won here 9 times. Had a good first practice session. He is 8th overall right now.
Yeah, he had a good practice session, but he also had a near miss there. He got loose up off of 4. He was one of the very few cars that got loose off of turn 4 that didn't spin out and get in the outside wall.
There's Justin Allgaier in the 12, 6th overall in first practice, and guys, he's backing it up here again, 3rd quickest.
I mean, a great day so far for that young man, and he has a lot of potential, Steve, on and off the racetrack. A well-spoken guy with a lot of talent, and I really like when I listen to him. I like the way he communicates with his people around the team. His crew chief, he really breaks down that car the way a veteran does.
Dick Berggren.
Well, Justin Allgaier is having a grand day for himself right now. He is 4th quick on the board. He was in the top 10 virtually all of the first practice session. Kurt Busch was down here earlier in the day to have some conversation with him to try to help the youngster out. I'm not sure anybody needs to help this kid out. He has been ever so impressive from the moment he has arrived in NASCAR's Nationwide Series. Got a great future ahead of him.
Dick, I mean, I know you're saying that nobody needs to help him, but I think you may want to go by and tell him if he hangs out with Kenny Wallace, Kenny's will get him in trouble.
There's a wrench on the apron in 3.
I think we got some debris on the racetrack, so the red flag is now being displayed. But the fun thing about it was during the practice session, I was down there, and Kenny Wallace was convincing Jason he needed to come to Macon Speedway. There it is. It looks like a piece, maybe a brake duct or even a spring rubber has come out of the car. NASCAR will pick that up. But he's convinced him he needed to come to Macon Speedway and run. I'll be that weekend to sign autographs. I think it's like the 25th of May. You should have seen Kenny. He's quite the salesman. He sold Jason, and all of a sudden here comes his father up there, and here, next thing you know, it's a family affair. So don't be surprised you don't see Jason Allgaier sometime in the near future at a racetrack with Kenny Wallace.
Caution, 10 minutes into this 1-hour practice. Beautiful spring day here at the Bristol Motor Speedway. Glad you're with us here on Speed. Back at the Bristol Motor Speedway, Steve Burns, Jeff Hammond, Hermie Sadler. Guys, looking at that piece of tape, that race car, that 28 car, went to victory lane, but Davey Allison went to the hospital.
Yeah, actually, that interview was done a week later at Lowe's Motor Speedway. So it's kind of, I guess you might say, I think a lot of what he was referring to is what he had to rewatch on the tape.
Yes, exactly.
I don't think he remembered a whole lot, because he definitely had his bell run.
I miss old Davey Allison.
Yep.
Oh, yeah. Greg had a lot of tragedies. Wonder where he would have been today had he not had that accident at Talladega. Great guy.
Yep. First all-star race under the lights there at Lowe's Motor Speedway in 1992. Let's go down to the garage. Krista standing by with Kelly Byers, second quick.
That's right, Steve. Kelly Byers very quick. They went out there and did 2 quick qualifying runs. And Kelly, where does this track compare when you look at the list of tracks that you enjoy racing at? Where does Bristol rank?
It's probably one of the top 10. Come from short track racing, and it's probably one of my favorites because it's concrete. I have a tendency to run real good on concrete tracks, so the Nashvilles, the Dovers, and this one rates very well because it's like a small Dover, and we really run good at Dover. So it's a tough track to get around, to get your car set up correct and the way you need it to both get the bite off the corner and still get it to turn into the corner. So the Braun Racing Toyota is pretty good here today. It's got a lot of speed in it. We worked hard on it first practice to get the balance of it right, and it's looking pretty good.
All right, 2 good laps. That'll be good for this practice session for Kelly Byers. And Steve, he likes concrete tracks. To me, that's solid.
Very solid, Kristen. Hermie, kind of surprised. Byers second quick, but he has just 4 laps in this practice.
Probably working on some qualifying, Steve, trying to get the feel he needs. He got a lot done in the first practice, and these cars did before Sprint Cup qualifying had a hour and a half practice to get a lot of things worked out. So, but impressive to see him bumped up to second quick now. Right now, a good practice session for Kelly Byers.
Scott Speed down on the apron, 21st overall. Meanwhile, the 38. Jason Leffler aboard the Great Clips machine, 17th overall.
Steve, what gets me about this situation right here is that, with Jason, he's working right now with Scott Zipadelli, Greg Zipadelli's brother, and I think the cool thing about it is that Jason feels like that Scott's going to bring them some organization to this team this year to give him an opportunity. Right now, he's 8th in the points, and they're looking to get more consistent calls during the race, as well as having basically a game plan when they show up at the racetrack to make sure their performance is better. And I think if you take a look right now, the times are bearing that out. So I think that'll be huge as far as that team's concerned. And here's my buddy right now. We were laughing about him in the first practice session.
I heard you.
Rennie. Brendan Gaughan right there in that South Point, number 62, and he just loves this type of racetrack. I mean, he's just a fierce competitor. I made a comment earlier, played basketball at Georgetown, so the March Madness, I mean, he watches a lot of basketball, especially his boys from Georgetown, which they didn't fare too well the other night, but he still loves that university.
He commented that his car was really good in race trim. Wasn't quite as good when he made the qualifying run as he wanted to, but really happy with his car in race trim earlier today.
Dick Berggren has an update on Brendan Gaughan's teammate.
And that would be Stephen Wallace in car number 66. And Steve is just climbing into the car right now. He's going to go out and try to make a bonsai run. They've got fresh tires on it. They're going to see how fast it can go. So far today, things have gone very well for young Mr. Wallace. He was 5th quick in the first practice, 10th quick so far today. And in conversation with him just a few moments ago, he told me how much he loves this place. His father, of course, had enormous success here. Rusty Wallace, a multiple-time winner, huge number of laps led. But Stephen Wallace has also won here in a late model race. And he's won a pole here. So we're about to see how fast this young 21-year-old driver can go.
Well, Dick, right now we're watching his father give him some advice or talk to him about what his car's doing. So it'll be interesting to see what he does, because a lot of times dads will tell you, now, you do as I say, not as I did. We've seen Rusty have some pretty hard crashes here, but he's also had a lot of success with 9 wins coming here at Bristol Motor Speedway.
Stephen sat on the pole here in March of 2007. As you take a look at Kyle Busch, he was fastest in the first Nationwide Series practice, 6th right now. We'll be back with more of this 1-hour practice right after this. Sunday on Speed, NASCAR race day built by the Home Depot roars into Thunder Valley, where temps are hot and beating and banging, our way of life. NASCAR race day built by the Home Depot. Live coverage begins Sunday, 11:30 Eastern. NASCAR on Speed. Be there. Final practice continues for the NASCAR Nationwide Series drivers. Joey Logano in the 20 car, 10th overall. Yes, Mr. Sadler.
That race day promo.
You're upset because it didn't have your name in it?
I think with all the good-looking men on that show, Kenny Wallace, John Roberts,
Jimmy Spencer,
and oh, I got it now. I understand why they got windy up there.
Yeah, see? You answered your own question.
They made a great choice. I was trying to make a joke. Didn't come off too good.
No, I got it.
Hey, driver,
stick with what you know. Leave the comedy to somebody else.
Yeah. On board.
Wreck behind you. Wreck behind you.
71 car going around here, turn 3. Off turn 4 it is.
You heard Brad Parrott, his crew chief, John West Townley's that is, saying wreck behind you.
Joe Ruttman, he didn't, first time on the racetrack, Jeff, he did not get on the racetrack in first practice, so he was making his 4th lap on the track and got away from it.
Yeah, Joe's one of the veterans. Let's see what happened to him here in the 71 car. Comes into the corner, and he just got loose getting in. I mean, it's the first one we've seen do that, but hard impact with the outside safer barrier. Now,
on board with Stephen Wallace.
Down the back straightaway, he gets a little bit loose. He just bust the wall there.
Yes, he did. Hermie, I want to talk about the mental part of this, of racing here as we watch Ruttman head back to the garage. You know, getting back to the promo for NASCAR race day built by the Home Depot, you're going to talk about tempers and beating and banging. Darrell talked about this earlier this week. You're going to run into trouble. You're going to get hit. Trouble's going to find you.
Right.
But you mentally have to stay in this game here.
Well, we've got one of the best there ever was working right here for us on Speed and Fox, and Darrell Waltrip. I mean, he won
12 times.
12 times here. And, you know, when somebody would catch him, if he was off a little bit at the beginning of the race, he'd let him go. And he'd always get his stuff better. And it was time to race. He understood it was time to race. And I think you have to have that. It's tough for a race car driver to do because, you know, your mindset is, I don't want anybody to pass me. But to be successful at this racetrack, as we've talked about, is 500 laps. And this racetrack will change a great deal from the start of the race to the end of the race. So you may have a 10th place car at the beginning of the race, but if you put it in jeopardy or get it you know, damaged before you get to the end of the race, you never know what you got. So you've got to be smart.
You've got to be disciplined, Steve.
Under caution for Joe Ruttman's wreck, we go down to Chris Devoda.
Well, you guys were talking about smarts and discipline. Someone who has them both is Kyle Busch. And Kyle, you guys are done. How come so quick? Is the car that good?
Oh, the car's pretty good, yeah. We didn't feel like we needed to waste any more tires or waste any more laps on the motor. So the Z-Line's designs, Toyota's not bad. We're just getting ready for tomorrow and try to qualify well enough where we can stay up front all day and try to stay out of the mess.
All right, thanks, Kyle.
Krista, we're just jamming out to the music. Why don't you fill me up?
Steve.
Go ahead, Herm.
You're more of a Waylon Jennings kind of guy.
You're right. We'll be right back to Bristol. Coverage of NASCAR Nationwide Series Final Practice from Bristol is brought to you by Camping World. At Camping World, our lower prices and friendly service will make you a happy camper. High atop the Bristol Motor Speedway, each team has a designated spotter. Practice just back underway after Joe Ruttman's crash.
Those boys will be busy this weekend too, Jeff. Those spotters, very key here at Bristol.
Hey, you know what, guys, too? I think the spotters here have to really choose their words carefully because there's a lot of cars out of shape. There's a lot of cars getting sideways. And in fact, years ago when Jimmy Spencer was driving for Travis Carter, he dominated a Sprint Cup race here. His spotter at the time was Larry Carter, now the crew chief on the 98. And he said, caution, caution, caution. Well, Spencer got on the brake, then jumped back on the gas pedal, and he said, no caution. Broke the throttle linkage and lost the race.
You have that happen sometimes in big-time auto racing. The weirdest things will jump up. We've already talked about, like Mark Martin. Had to race led. Next thing you know, he come in too soon. He winds up losing the race. But you hear right there the lap times, anything you're getting, any kind of information has got to be very precise and very clear because, again, even inside these race cars, hear the spotter right there, clear, clear.
It moves a little more.
Dabbley then made some adjustments to the car as far as I think the maybe shocks are concerned. Car's moving around a little bit. I'm sure they're going to probably make an adjustment to that, at least in my opinion. I'd go back and put what was on it before.
Since they redid this racetrack to the progressive banking, there's been a lot of talk about whether the racing was better or not, but it does take a little bit of pressure off the spotters and the drivers, because it used to be if you were a little bit slower and holding up a crew of guys 4 or 5 cars behind you, they actually had to knock you out of the way to get you out of the way. And if you moved up the racetrack, you would sometimes lose 5, 6, 7, 10 spots, a half a straightaway even. But now with the multiple grooves at this racetrack, not only can you move up and let people by you, but you can pass better. If you come up behind somebody and you're quicker than they are, you don't have to go through them. You can go around them if your car is that good. So eventually it will make for better racing here at this racetrack.
Well, Hermie, we watched David Reagan and check in with Dick Berggren.
Well, if a picture is worth 1,000 words, look at this picture. I'm hanging out behind Carl Edwards' pit box, and I just found 18 different shock absorbers lying on the ground. Shock absorbers that they can put on the car to try to fix anything from a push to a loose to who knows what. These little tabs, that'll tell you how far the shock absorber is closing end to end. Very important. These are not bump stop shock absorbers. These are real shocks, the kind you find on your car, except these cost maybe 10, 20 times as much.
That right there is what you tune on to make a car really work here. I mean, Hermie and I were talking about it. Don't worry about aerodynamics. Worry about shocks and springs and making them kind of make this racetrack kind of compatible.
These shocks have come a long way. You can see those little red adjusters at the bottom of those shocks. You can actually adjust rebound and compression settings on the shocks just by turning that adjuster on those shocks. You don't have to always revalve a shock to make an adjustment.
No, you just kind of open and close the internal valvings of it so that, you know, whatever type of shim stacks inside there, you can work on the shock. We're taking a look right now, the 81 car, Kevin Hamlin. That's not the Kevin Hamlin that's a crew chief, it's the driver.
Normally see DJ Kennington in the 81 car. Kevin Hamlin out of the Pacific Northwest in the 81. The 91 driven by Terry Cook.
Got a chance to talk to Terry down in the garage area in between practice sessions, and he said, you know what, the racetrack, he said, has been kind of surprising to him. He said, I thought that it was going to be a lot different because we're running the same tire that we raced here a year ago, but he said the thing has aged some and it's really taken the rubber a little differently, and it feels like it's got really good grip compared to the time before. So with the age of this concrete and the type of tire that Goodyear brought back here, at least this is one driver that's pretty happy with the balance of his race car, and he's running pretty good right now. He winds up, he's 31st quickest as far as one of the guys that you have to make it in a qualifying time later on tomorrow.
Tomorrow morning, we'll have that qualifying session for you. Hermie, you going to bring coffee? You going to join us?
I'd love to.
Oh,
is that an invitation?
Outstanding.
That's an invitation? Personal invitation from you?
Got to be here, Hermie.
I'm going to say, I thought it was a mandate. He was on the schedule to be working.
Schedule.
Yeah.
Brad Keselowski had a great duel here with Clinton Boyer, watching from atop his transporter.
A lot of what we saw in the first practice today. Makes a few laps, and he likes his car, and he says, I'll watch you guys go out there and get it.
Pops told us if you like it, the best place for it to be is up on jack stands.
That's it. Well, speaking of Clinton Boyer, he is fastest in this practice, followed by Brad Keselowski, Kelly Byers, and Kevin LePage. We'll be back to Bristol. Final practice continues at the Bristol Motor Speedway for the NASCAR Nationwide Series team. They qualify tomorrow morning. Close call just a few moments ago for Michael Annett in the 15 car. Former hockey player from Iowa is on thin ice.
Oh, he was. Look at that thing just skating around right there. He made a good job of not overcorrecting right there, I think, Hermie, because we've seen a lot of guys get in that situation to spin out today.
And we say this a lot. You know, it doesn't look like a whole lot right there, but he is way out of control right there. So good job by Michael Annett to keep us cool and keep that car from spinning around and getting into the outside wall.
Down to Chris Devoda.
Well, you guys were talking hockey. This was, I guess, what you'd call a slap shot. We're looking at the 71 of Joe Ruttman. You see the damage down here in the garage as his crew is in for a long night trying to prepare this car for tomorrow's qualifying. And that's because, Joe, you guys don't have a backup car. So we're looking at the damage and what happened out there.
Well, it's going faster than I could hang on, and it got around. So we're looking at mainly the driver and his reaction time, I think, is where the problem is. So we're going to discuss it with him in great detail and see if we can straighten that part of it out.
That's going to be an interesting conversation, isn't it? That's an interesting conversation.
Well, yeah, he didn't do very damn good, you know, so I don't know what we're going to do with him, you know.
take it easy on him because he won the very first truck race here, so he knows what he's doing.
That was a long time ago.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Krista. Joe Rudman, 64 years old. Always has a sense of humor.
You know, the thing is about Joe, he is one of 3 drivers that are here this weekend that are over 60 years of age. Brad Teague, 61, and the ageless one, Morgan Shepherd, is 67.
'60 car of Carl Edwards on the racetrack.
Speaking of 60.
Speaking of 60, and Dick Bergeron has an update.
Now, Carl Edwards was 4th in the first practice session today, Steve. He's 11th so far, but expect that time to improve considerably. They have taped off the entire nose of the car, cooled the radiator down, and put 4 fresh tires on it as Edwards is doing his mock qualifying run.
Hermie, how difficult from a driver's perspective is it to get a clean lap in here?
It can be difficult, but luckily for Carl Edwards, and that's where your spotters come back in. Your spotters got to do a really good job of getting you a clean spot on the racetrack. Now he's got to worry about that he's going. We see him up to speed. He came off the racetrack, came onto the racetrack just like he would to start a qualifying run, come off turn 2 into turn 3 for his qualifying run. His spotter got him a good spot, so as long as he doesn't run up on top of that car in front of him getting in turn 1 right now, he'll be fine.
Now, Jeff, let me ask you this. As a crew chief, half the track is in shade, half of it in the sun. We're going to qualify tomorrow morning.
Well, tomorrow morning we'll probably have this the opposite. The shade will be on the front side versus the back side. But the good thing about concrete, it doesn't cool off and heat up as much as asphalt does. So the shadiness will not make as much difference. But for Edwards right now, great effort right there. He is now the fastest. And while we were talking, you know, he just knocked off Clint Boyer in the 29 car. But also Boyer's teammate Kevin Harvick in the 33 had jumped up to 3rd quickest. You know, so we're starting to see some of these guys starting to lay down some qualifying laps to see exactly what they've got, because I think this will be very much a representation of what we're going to see tomorrow morning around 9 o'clock.
Another thing we got to keep in mind is tomorrow morning for qualifying, that'll be the first lap back on the racetrack for these guys, and it's very difficult to go from the racetrack overnight, get up the next morning, come back, and with no up-to-speed laps on the racetrack, you go right into qualifying. So I think it's important for some of these guys, especially the younger guys, not necessarily Carl Edwards, but to have the last lap they had on the racetrack to be their qualifying lap, so it's fresh in their mind. They'll know exactly how it felt and how the car drove, and I think that'll be a bonus for them tomorrow.
Well, the other bonus is, just remember, it won't have no rain right now, so it shouldn't change the racetrack.
Well, Carl Edwards gives us an outstanding transition to remind you that trackside tonight at 7 Eastern here from the Bristol Motor Speedway. Carl Edwards joins us, along with the pole sitter for Sunday's Food City 500, Mark.
Cousin Carl and Uncle Mark, I tell you right now, you can't get much better than that. That's
a nice show right there.
That's an awesome show.
We'll be back with final practice for the Nationwide Series teams right after this. Kevin Harvick, a 4-time winner here at Bristol in the NASCAR Nationwide Series. Get the latest news and commentary from SpeedTV.com's personalities and industry experts like Krista Voda, Jimmy Spencer, Tom Jensen, Bob Dillner, and Hermie Sadler. Be sure to check out Voices of Speed each week in the NASCAR section of SpeedTV.com.
Hey, Randy Pemberton, he's a good-looking man. Look at him. Bob Dillner.
Joey Logano talking to his crew, and Krista's going to talk to Kevin LePage.
That's right. That's the voice on speed I want to hear from right now. Kevin LePage, you turned a very quick qualifying lap. It was 5th quick. A couple of guys have topped you. You're 7th quick right now.
Yeah, you know, my hat's off to Rick Markle and Derek Cope, you know, for giving me this opportunity. And what we did about 15 minutes ago is do our mock-up qualifying run for tomorrow. The longer this practice session goes, the more guys go out, obviously the track's going to be a lot better. So we based our temperature of the track conditions 15 minutes ago, what tomorrow's going to be like. So the flipping bag dodge was really good, and we got a new sponsor, and it's just really excited to be here at Bristol.
Yeah, let's show your car too. Steve, Hermie, Jeff, you guys need to see this. Flipping bags is what Kevin's talking about. It's basically a self-contained cooler. You carry your cooler and a knapsack on your back, walk in, sit on your seat, and then you have your cooler. Dick Bergeron, I know you would love that, right?
Oh, indeed I would, but I'd also like to watch Joey Logano tomorrow, making his 2nd appearance at Bristol. How much impact does it have for you to have been to a racetrack at least once? Does it really help?
Yeah, it helps a lot. You know, I think with the GameStop Toyota today is pretty good. Over on the Cubs side, we're decent. You know, being at the track that at least you're familiar with helps out a lot. So we over here, we weren't the greatest unloading, and
running both races is going to help. This young man's going to get a lot of laps this weekend.
And Dick is doing a fine job of just getting Joey Logano to hear his question. It is so loud down here on pit road at Bristol. This bowl we're in and these stands all the way around the racetrack. I used to be down on pit road and they'd ask me a question. I just say, yeah, the car's driving pretty good. Hope we have a good day. Had no idea what they were saying, but it's a loud, loud racetrack.
It'll wear you out for sure. And there's the 11 car right now. It's Scott Lagacy. Just got through making a little bit of a practice attempt as far as qualifying, 21st quickest. And guys, while we were talking a moment ago with Joey Logano, the veteran Jason Keller has jumped up to second quickest. We're going to see a lot of times start kind of, like I say, jumping up there. Guys are putting new tires on their cars, going to find out what they've got. And so that, as Hermie was saying, when they go back to the motor coach tonight, they can know exactly what to expect tomorrow morning.
Hermie and I like to play Nationwide Series trivia. What car was Kevin LePage driving when he won the race here in '98?
The Channel Lock car.
Very good, Hermie Sadler. I'm proud of you.
Number Phil Parsons had Channel Lock when it was 10.
Yep.
I know it had Channel Lock on it.
It did.
But I don't remember the car number.
I just remember Channel Lock.
I remember that.
Channel Lock was
Thought you had me
cars, like the 29 car at one time. Wasn't a 29 because it was on that one also.
The Channel Lock was around for a long time, but I do remember Kevin winning that race. And that was that before or after the Vermont Teddy Bear car?
That would have been after. Channel Lock was after Vermont Teddy Bear.
Well, Vermont Teddy Bear has been in and out several times. Was it the number 40 car?
You're a cheating dog. 18-year-old Trevor Bayne in the 52 car. And, you know, I was reading about this effort. Trevor Bayne's from Knoxville, Tennessee.
Right.
And Dale Earnhardt Jr. is involved in this. And what's neat about this is one of Dale Earnhardt Jr.'s favorite drivers, if not his top driver, was Jimmy Means. Dale Earnhardt Jr. and Bradley Means, Jimmy's sons, were buddies, along with Jason Jarrett, Dale Jarrett's son, and Jimmy Means. That's a Jimmy Means car.
And the other thing, when I was talking to Trevor earlier, you know, even though he's 18 years of age, it may be his first nationwide race here, but he's raced here before 3 times in the Hooters Cup. So he said, but the cool thing about it is, Jeff, he said, actually, this car feels better than those cars because they got more tire, and I like the way the car has got some throttle response compared to the Hooters, which when they ran restrictor plates here, you pretty much flat-footed it around here.
Hermie, I can tell you're completely overwhelmed by the whole Dale Earnhardt Jr., Jimmy Means.
You never cease to amaze me, Steve Burns.
He's a plethora of information.
Not sure what that means, but I agree.
45 minutes through a 1-hour practice for the NASCAR Nationwide Series teams at the Bristol Motor Speedway. Chris Devoda, Dick Berger, Jeff Hammond, Hermie Sadler, and Steve Burns with you. Glad you've been along for all the coverage here on Speed from Thunder Valley. Matt Kenseth aboard the 16 this week.
Steve, I got a chance to talk to Eddie Pardue, the crew chief on this car, and he said they were, you know, just found out about the situation with Greg on Wednesday. So they basically had the car already set up, you know, for Greg from the cockpit through all the springs and everything. So they've been working on this car because it takes a full day to change out the seat, the belts, and everything to make them these cars compatible for a driver. Even though Greg and Matt are pretty close in size, to get it exactly right, that a lot of work goes into it.
No, Matt said on an earlier practice that Greg was a whole lot older than he is and a lot heavier through the midsection.
Well, you didn't need to bring that back up. I got a chance to talk to Greg about that also, and he said that, Jeff, if you only knew how much pain I'm in right now, when he slipped, fell on the deck the other day, it messed his ribs up big time. And I mean, it's really going to hurt him because, again, it's the right side, so you're really leaning on it, so he's really going to be dependent upon a lot of changes in his cup car to be able to get through 500 laps here.
Scott Speed up to speed. He is 8th overall right now. Let's go to Dick Berggren.
Well, Steve, we have seen some tires cording just like this one on the right rear in both the Nationwide Series and also NASCAR's Sprint Cup Series. It's not supposed to be a problem. It shouldn't be a problem. It's the same tire that they used last year at both races here and also at Pocono. But several teams are, in fact, cording right rears.
Dick, I had a chance to talk to Goodyear about that, and they said they weren't really surprised that some of these scents that were coming off especially with the way the racetrack is right now. It's still green. And one thing about a concrete racetrack, it will wear a tire a lot faster than asphalt. So they're not really surprised to see this, and they expect it to go away by the time they get through running a lot of laps during these practice sessions that have been run here today. That should be something that we will not have to worry about in tomorrow's race.
Mike Bliss in the one car, just 36th fastest right now. And just another reminder, trackside tonight at 7 Eastern here on Speed. Darrell Waltrip, Larry McReynolds, Jeff Hammond, and myself will be joined by Carl Edwards and Mark Martin at 7 Eastern.
You know something? Besides Talladega, this is one of the most exciting places you can go and have some fun as far as this is concerned.
We did a show a few years back in March. It was snowing, and the crowd started singing Christmas carols.
Nice. I remember that weekend. We had snow. It snowed, and a few minutes later, the sun was out.
Yeah, that's right.
Hey, I need to tell Newt right quick to get a bigger hammer. That's Newt Moore, the crew chief on the 05 car of Casey Atwood, trying to, affect the rest of the repairs on that car. And again, he says we're going to have it back good as new. Looked underneath that car, which I know you've seen this time and time again. They'd already cut the rear frame section loose, jacked it back up with a porta power, and had plated, with diamond gussets, had already replated the rear part of the frame section to get it back straight. So good as new.
Well, if and you know this better than I do, but if you are going to crash a car at the track and try to fix it, you're better off hitting the back of the car than you are the front.
Yeah, he said
because the old guys, they used to tell me the back of the car just carries the fuel seal. So if you can get that back under there, a lot better chance to get it fixed as opposed to if they'd had damage on the front.
Like I say, veteran crew chief right there, Newt Moore. He's had to do this more than once in his career. But usually after you do it, you have a chance to go to the shop, not to do it all here at the racetrack. Hey, Daddy.
New daddy, Bernie Lamar.
Daddy.
His wife, Nikki Taylor, supermodel Nikki Taylor.
Supermodel Nikki Taylor.
Not everybody gets to say that.
Nope. Well, now he's a supermodel too. Did you see his
I saw
picture?
Krista. Yeah,
Krista Vogt. Our fashion lady.
Fashionista.
Yeah. Is that what you call a fashionista?
Y'all getting way on my head now.
Scott Lagasse, 22nd overall. Carl Edwards still the quickest, and he's followed by Jason Keller.
Slow in the middle.
How do you fix slow in the middle, boys?
Mash the gas.
Thought he was going to say cowboy up.
Nope.
Morgan Shepherd, the other four-time winner here at the Bristol Motor Speedway in the Nationwide Series.
I used to come here to Bristol, and I tell my guys, car was tight through the center. What should I do? They said, put a bigger steering wheel on it.
Bigger steering wheel.
That maybe worked in your rookie years. It didn't work after that, did it?
This is a bad place to be when your car's not handling. Nowhere to hide at Bristol Motor Speedway.
Just saw Mark Davis in the 36. We'll be right back to Bristol. Speed's coverage of NASCAR Nationwide Series final practice from Bristol is brought to you by Victory, the new American motorcycle. And a reminder, at 7 p.m. Eastern, trackside from the Bristol Motor Speedway, Carl Edwards and the pole sitter for the Food City 500, Mark Martin, joins us at 7 Eastern here on Speed.
You forgot somebody.
What?
The king of Bristol.
Who?
Darrell Waltrip.
No, that's implied. 12 wins. Yeah. Got a grandstand named after him.
He's the man.
Well, Carl Edwards, the man right now on timing and scoring, quickest, but Dick Bergman reporting during the commercial that having a little chattering problem, the right front on that number 60 car.
We thought his qualifying run that put him at the top of the speed chart may be his last laps of the day, but this is an impound race, Jeff, so any kind of mechanical problems that you have with your car, if you've got a vibration that Carl Edwards is reporting, you cannot
ignore it.
Now,
you need to work on it itself. Make it fix it right now, because again, the racetrack's going to continue to change. Sitting here looking at one of the local favorites here, Eric McClure.
42nd overall.
Yeah, he needs a little bit of work to do on that 24 car, but he's going to be sleeping in his own bed tonight down in Abington, Virginia, right down the road here a little ways.
On board with Justin Allgaier.
You get a pretty good idea what it's like to go from the shaded area into where the sunshine is still hitting the racetrack.
Allgaier down onto the apron.
I mean, it's interesting too, Hermes. We watch him come down on pit road. It's a challenge to get in and off, on and off the racetrack here, much less just navigate the racetrack.
Yeah, you go from 26, 30 degrees of banking down to the apron, and plus from the asphalt to the concrete and vice versa. You hit that, especially in the green flag conditions, you hit from that concrete to the asphalt, and if you're not careful, you can really cause yourself some problems. But it's part of what makes Bristol, Bristol.
Krista has an update on Matt Kenseth.
Yeah, Steve, Matt Kenseth is climbing out of the race car. They are done, and they are thanking him for staying for this entire practice. Remember, Matt is just substituting, filling in for Greg Biffle, who was supposed to be racing this car. Greg, as we reported in the first practice, injuring his ribs during the off week, doing some fishing out on the lake. And Matt, we kind of been joking a little bit about it, that Matt was kind of maybe giving a little bit of a weight joke. Well, one of the comments he made in this practice was that his car has too much weight. That would be too much weight hanging over the right rear tire. I don't know. That sounds like a fat joke to me if I ever heard one.
No, actually, Krista, that makes a lot of sense, at least to me.
Let's go to Dick Berggren.
With the fastest man in Bristol, Carl Edwards, but you've got a little bit of a problem with the right front of the car. What's going on?
Well, they think maybe the wheel was rubbing on the brake caliper a little bit, but it's a fast race car right now. I mean, this Scott's Fusion is good. And it's cool Scott sponsored this race. It's a turf builder, you know, and it's about time to be planting some grass and making the house pretty, and if you're trying to sell it or something, that could help. So tell you what, for us right now, it really helped to get a win. You know, the 18's real fast and 33's real fast, and I think the points are going to be real tight after this race, but we got a really good car.
And he's won here before in the Sprint Cup competition. Twice, in fact. Thanks, Carl.
And it's the first day of spring, Hermie.
First day of spring.
Got to throw out the fertilizer.
Got to have it.
Yeah, I wish they would have told me that the other day. I could have used a little help. I put out about $500 with Scott's the other day on my yard.
But the first freeze warning tonight, though, Jeff.
Oh, thanks a lot.
Freeze warning.
He's always the bearer of good news.
I'm telling you right now, you talking about somebody to rain on a parade.
Lift you up and bring you down.
I do have some good news for some of the competitors. Practice is over, so they can breathe a sigh of relief that the race cars are not torn up.
Yeah, I was getting all choked up with all that information. Yeah. Speaking of tore up or towed up, how's your foot? How's your foot?
Oh, yeah, sore.
Sore? Folks at home, I just want to let you know our quarterback dropped a weight on his toe the other day and broke his big toe.
It's an inside Ty Lawson joke is what that is.
Is that what it is? Yeah. I know he's pulling for the Tar Heel secret.
Yeah.
No, I'm not either. Well, Carl Edwards, the fastest in practice, followed by Jason Keller, Clint Boyer, Kevin Harvick, and Jason Leffler. Don't forget trackside, 7 Eastern. Carl Edwards, Mark Martin, DW Larry Mack, Jeff Hammond, Steve Burns.
Be there.